This is Flat Out Agility, an Australian agility podcast. I'm Grace. It's that time to reflect on the past year and set some goals for the next one. I thought it might be useful for listeners if I went through my reflections and goals because it might jumpstart you thinking about your own agility journey and where you want to take it. I don't put much stock in the New Year's resolutions thing, but I do find this a useful time of year because it's when I always have time off and get a chance to rest, reflect, think, and make some loose plans. It also aligns with the off-season for agility, so that makes it easier to reflect on what we've done and plan for next year. 2025 has definitely been my best year of agility so far, after almost a decade of trying to kickstart something but just learning to tolerate failure. This year, I was able to actually complete courses at trial and come away from each one feeling positive about the future, which is light years ahead of where I've been before. For that, I am very grateful. I don't take for granted that I'm running with a dog that wants to play this game with me. I've worked hard to give her the skills she needs to succeed, and she's worked hard to keep having fun. I'm pretty happy with how I stuck to my trialing strategy for the year. I aimed to treat each run as a data gathering exercise to see where our skills were and to figure out where we still needed work. I really liked the way Esteban Fernandez Lopez put it on the Bad Dog Agility podcast. The judge asked you a question: can you do this? And then you answer yes or no, and if it's no, you go and work on the skills that need work before you answer the question at your next trial. I like to film and analyze my trial runs afterwards for this reason. For 5 out of 6 of the trials I entered, I maintained a constructive mindset and stuck to my plan. There was one trial in August where I was in my head and distracted. I started thinking about the numbers, thinking about what qualifications we needed to title and how quickly we could get there with the trials that were left for the year. This meant that I stopped paying attention to Topaz and what she needed from me in the moment, and she went into our 2 runs that night a lot more over-aroused than usual, taking multiple off-course obstacles, turning the wrong way, and knocking out the tyre. I came away from that second run seriously asking myself what I was doing. Why was I trying to rush through novice? Why was I focusing on potential future qualifications and titles instead of enjoying what I was currently living through? Topaz is only going to be a novice once. We're only going to do this once. I realized that I needed to really focus on what's happening right now and enjoy being able to do this sport that I love with this dog that I love and not feel that we need to speed through classes for the sake of it. That night gave me a lot of clarity, and I knew that I needed to approach future competitions with the outlook to enjoy each moment because they're fleeting and they're never coming back. I went into our last local trial of the year in September with a calmer approach and a focus on our warm-up routine to make sure that Topaz had what she needed, and this led us to qualifying 2 out of 2 runs, so it was validating to immediately see success from changing my approach. So for 2026, one of my goals is to really focus on our trial routines so that Topaz is always prepared for whatever I ask her to do next, and I don't get ahead of myself and instead give everything I've got for each run as it happens. This year I was really pleased with Topaz's enormous improvement in her ringside skills, both at training and at trials. She's come really far with waiting and being able to watch other dogs run. Topaz is a challenging dog, and for all of 2024, I wasn't sure that she'd be able to do agility because her resilience was pretty low. Even at the beginning of this year, in terms of the arousal valence model, which I find a useful framework, I was finding that Topaz was in high arousal, unpleasant valence most of the time, which means that she was mostly feeling emotions like anger, frustration, fear, annoyance, and paranoia. Now, all animals feel the full spectrum of emotions, but I'm talking about how Topaz was behaving most of the time, and it bothered me that she was marinating in that unpleasant space. As the year rolled on, I worked really hard to channel her high arousal into more positive outcomes, to get her into a high arousal, pleasant valence mode, where she would instead be feeling happiness, excitement, joy, curiosity, and amusement more often. I think that we met this goal, or at least made massive improvements toward it. Topaz definitely lives most of her life now between the high arousal pleasant valence and low arousal pleasant valence quadrants, which is a much healthier place for her to be. I'm much better at noticing her slipping into unpleasant valence and being able to proactively do something about it. She's also a lot more resilient now, with more skills and more maturity. I think agility is a huge reason that she has improved because it gave her a structured environment to do a mentally and physically challenging activity, but also a place where she was met with emotional challenges that she could rise to meet with social support and physical safety. Of course, I did a lot of other things to improve in this area as well, unrelated to agility, but I do think there is something to be said for building a dog's confidence through dog sports in a thoughtful and careful way. There are, of course, areas I still need to work on. The biggest one for Topaz is waiting alone. She's very good at waiting with me now, but waiting alone is still a challenge. Some days she is good at it, other days she struggles. I want to teach her some more stationing skills to address this because it is something that will make our lives easier in future. I also want to work on Topaz's jumping strength and power, as well as her overall conditioning and fitness. I would like her to have really strong jumping muscles and really robust jumping skills to be able to excel on any course. I've amassed a little more fitness equipment to do some different exercises, and I've been doing research and resource gathering to put more thought into her fitness routine. I've been doing fitness exercises with her for a while now, but I'd like to develop more of a specific routine and start really thinking of Topaz as an athlete. For myself, I really want to improve in 3 areas. First, I want to handle errors better than I have been. Multiple times throughout the year, I noticed myself starting to grind when errors were occurring, repeating things multiple times to try to get it right, but without proper care to tweaking to get a better result and without managing my own frustration properly. This isn't how I want to train, but in the moment I find it difficult to snap myself out of it. I think this approach is detrimental to my relationship with Topaz because she will keep doing what I ask, but at the expense of eroding her enthusiasm for the task. After noticing this pattern forming in my behaviour, I started to really try to be more conscious and catch myself before the frustration set in. When I'm in the middle of training something and I'm getting errors, it's not always clear to me what's causing the problem, and that's where I was spiralling into frustration. I want to improve this. So I watched Ilan Lawler's webinar, Radically Rethinking How We Handle Errors, which gave me some clarity. I'm going to try her approach for handling errors and see how it works for me and Topaz. The basic premise is to see errors as data. Assume that your dog performed a cued behaviour, which means you try to figure out where you went wrong with your cueing and tweak something to make the behaviour you wanted more likely. I struggle with rewarding errors as any other repetition after having been taught for so long to ignore mistakes and only reward correct responses, so that's specifically what I'm trying to improve. The second area I want to improve in is the organisation of my training. I don't have a personal coach and I don't attend any classes myself because, as I've said before, I run the coaching at my club. So that means I basically have to coach myself too. I have a lot of resources and I've spent a lot of time researching agility, and I'm confident enough in my training to have a basic trajectory in mind. However, now that I'm advancing through novice, I recognize that I need some more structure and planning to get the most out of training. I've got the early stages of agility mapped out for myself and my students, but after foundations and getting to the trialing level, it's a lot harder for me to figure out where to go next. There's something of a gulf between novice and masters in my opinion, and it's not as clear and straightforward to work out what to train and when to train it. So I'm currently looking for new ways to plan training sessions that will get the best and most consistent results for myself and for others moving forward. The third area I want to improve is my own fitness. I want to have more strength, speed, and endurance for agility, so I'm developing something of a routine for myself as well. I'm not a super sporty person and I don't like going to the gym, so I'm trying to come up with some other options to be consistent. My final big goals of the year are to improve Topaz's qualification rate, which at the moment is 25%, to trial in another state, and finally, to enter the 2026 Dogs Australia Agility Nationals. The biggest disappointment of 2025 for me was having to cancel my trip to Sydney in October. After success at the Royal Darwin Show in July, the largest agility event we have in the Territory, I booked a trip to Sydney and planned to enter 2 trials where we would have had 15 different runs across 2 weekends under a number of different judges that I wanted to meet. I was so looking forward to this both as an agility challenge and as a test for travelling interstate with Topaz in anticipation of entering nationals in 2026. Well, we never made it to Sydney due to a heat wave that meant Topaz could not fly out of Darwin on any day for more than 10 days, and we missed both trials. I won't lie, I was devastated. I was so looking forward to it, and instead the whole thing fell apart. It's particularly disappointing because I didn't get a chance to test travelling and competing interstate with Topaz before committing to nationals. Now I will have to book for nationals without knowing how the experience is likely to go and with much less confidence than I might have had. I plan to travel in March to enter a trial in New South Wales and test travelling, but if it doesn't go well, it means I'll have to cancel any bookings I make for nationals. This reschedule has really compressed my planned timeline for preparation. It was incredibly disappointing, but life is like that, so I just have to press on and hope for the best. I'll talk more about my plans for travelling and trialling interstate as we get closer to those dates. And I hope that we don't get caught out by another weather event. but you never know. So, to summarise, my goals for 2026 are 1. Stick to my trial routines to ensure that I'm in the right headspace for competing and we have the best chance of success. 2. Work on Topaz's ability to wait alone. 3. Improve Topaz's fitness. 4. Improve my own fitness. 5. Change my approach to errors. 6. Improve my training planning. 7. Improve Topaz's qualification rate. 8. Trial interstate. 9. Internationals. It's a lot of goals, but that's what keeps life interesting. I love this sport and I want to improve, so these are the areas I've identified for improvement, with a couple extra stretch goals thrown in. I hope each new year is a better year for agility than the last. After years of feeling the opposite of that, I'm ready to go all in on making it happen. I'd love to hear your goals for 2026 and how many of you plan to enter nationals. Let me know on Facebook or Instagram at Flat Out Agility, or in the episode comments on Spotify or YouTube. Happy New Year. This has been Flat Out Agility. Be kind to dogs.